Hi, this is Annie Grace, the author of This Naked Mind, and I am answering readers' questions. And today I have a question from Dita. She says, I've read that drinking in people over the age of 50 is on the rise. I fell into that category until age 17 when I quit with This Naked Mind. That's awesome. My husband and I started drinking happy. We missed our grown kids a lot, but it was also a bit of a freedom. Then my drinking quickly turned into an addiction. Blackouts and bruises seem to come easier with age. I'm 61 this month. My husband's drinking also increased as he spontaneously quit in May. I've noticed a lot of older people that are interested in this, and actually on your Facebook page. I wonder if you would be interested in this as a topic. The concerns, the dangers, and the advice for older drinkers. I started on this path when your book first came out, and I found it so easy to quit that I thought I could drink again. I was 100% wrong every single time, and it wasn't until August of 2017 that I finally became mad at myself to quit for good. My addiction was deeper by then, so it was a difficult month and I couldn't sleep for a while, but I'm currently enjoying my freedom and improved sleep, so thank you so much. So Dita, this is a great question. You're absolutely right. There was a study that came out by, it was published in JAMA Psychiatry in 2017, and high risk drinking rose 65% among older adults. And among older adults, abuse and dependence on alcohol more than doubled. Now, what's also interesting is that although among older adults and women, interestingly, women rose about 58%, alcohol high-risk drinking is just skyrocketing. The study also found that problem drinking has increased across all age levels. So we are seeing things now that we haven't seen pretty much ever in terms of our alcohol consumption as a society. For example, ER visits are higher than ever from alcohol, and cirrhosis, which is the disease of the liver that is caused by alcohol, is on the rise for the first time really since the 1960s. So drinking is very problematic among almost every age group, but specifically to your point, very problematic, and some of the highest increases in problem drinking is among older adults. So there's a lot of theories as to why this is. And a few are that people in their 60s and 70s these days are actually less frail than they were 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, and even in their 50s. And so there's more drinking. They just continue their drinking patterns, whereas before, alcohol affects you more and more over time and with time. And so before, people would be less frail, they're less healthy, living less than they were before, and so alcohol would affect them more drastically and they would quit sooner. That's one theory. It's not, it's just a theory that some researchers and some doctors have put forward as to why this is happening. I also think that there's a huge contribution to just how accepted alcohol is in our society, especially with empty nest syndrome. So the kids go out of the house and all of a sudden there's no reason to, because we're very careful sometimes drinking around our kids. We don't want to provide a bad example, but then the kids are out of the house and there seems to be no reason to, curb what we want to do, and that might be drink more. Further, drinking when you drink to numb something, if it's some sort of stress and pain, and even the pain of the kids being out of the house and the empty nest syndrome can be quite painful for people. When you drink to numb something, the brain learns addiction at a faster rate, according to many sources of research. And so it can become problematic much, much sooner if you're drinking for any type of stress relief or self-medication. So interestingly, when you are older, your blood alcohol actually rises faster and your liver metabolizes alcohol more slowly, so it's less able to rid itself of the toxin. And your brain is actually also more sensitive to alcohol, specifically the sedative effects of alcohol. I want to give a little more information on why your liver actually is less able to metabolize alcohol and why alcohol is more problematic as you're older. So I'm going to actually read this specifically. It's from Dr. Michael Perskin. And he says, as a normal part of aging, all the organs in your body change as well as your metabolism. So you just don't metabolize alcohol as well, and your ability of your organs to respond to alcohol, which is a toxin, goes down. And he is from the assistant professor of geriatric medicine at NYU. So it's very good to be aware of these types of things, because drinking over a certain age is more problematic, and actually that age starts at really 30 to 40. So I'm going to read this again because it's great information. But around the age of 30 to 40 years old, our bodies begin to lose lean tissue and gain fat. And we're all familiar with that. I mean, I remember at 30, it was like, wait a second, I can't just eat whatever I want anymore. I have to actually exercise to maintain. And so we're all familiar with that. But what this does is the loss of lean tissue actually lowers the amount of water in your body, and it's the amount of water your body's able to hold. And water is hugely vital in counteracting the negative effects of alcohol and in metabolizing alcohol. So as we age, there's less water in our bodies, and it's harder and harder to dilute the alcohol and to protect itself. So your body is less capable as it ages of protecting itself from alcohol. So the other really thing to be aware of is many older people are on medications. And because we've adopted this very blasé attitude towards alcohol, there isn't a huge amount of caution even from doctors saying, okay, maybe there's a label on. I would get medications like when I was on antidepressants, and there would be a label saying don't drink alcohol with this, but never once did my doctor sit me down and say, look, it's really important not to drink alcohol with this medication, and here's why. Here's what it can do. Those labels are there for a reason. They often counteract with alcohol, and so there is a huge problem with people drinking on medications because there's a lot of medications being taken by older adults. So that is a really interesting part. The good news in this entire, there's one more piece of awareness you should be aware of, and that is just that when your alcohol affects your balance, and falling when you are older can be very problematic. My grandmother actually just a few days was in the morning, she wasn't drinking, she's not really a drinker, but she was walking in her driveway and she fell and shattered her hip, and she's 87 years old, and so she had to have hip replacement surgery. And so just a fall while you're walking just in the driveway, where, you know, my young daughter, she falls probably 50 to 70 times a day because she's just learning to walk, but she just gets up every single time, whereas my grandma fell once and shattered her entire hip and had to have it replaced. So your bones become more brittle and it's much more dangerous. So when you are drinking and you impair your ability, your motor cognition and your ability to really maintain your balance, it can be very, very dangerous in terms of falls. And so that's just another thing to be aware of. The good news in all of this is that most research says that when somebody who's older tries to stop drinking or do something about their drinking, their success rate is as good as, if not better, than those of younger people. And that's because they, I theorize that it's because you make a firmer decision, you kind of know what's at stake, you've lived a lot of your life probably without this sort of problem, and you really want to get it. There's other experts that say that seniors are actually more likely to adhere to whatever protocol they've committed themselves to. So they wouldn't dabble as much, but they just really focus on it and adhere to it. So I think that, and Diane, she says, I'm 60 and I'm on meds for high blood pressure, day 32, and my blood pressure has lowered. That's amazing, and that's absolutely true. Your blood pressure will go down. I've seen people get off blood pressure medications altogether. I've also seen people get off other medications. And so I think that it's a really, really good point. There's incredible benefits, obviously, towards your health and just your longevity. And also there's just much more risks when you're drinking at that age. So it was a great question. Thank you so much, Dita. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day.